this video, I took almost the whole month of January, I think I started on January 3rd, to see how many books I could read in 1 month. I'm interested in doing a video like this because I've seen other people do it. And then I also thought, if I have this video going through this month, it'll be a reminder that I'm filming it, and maybe I'll read more than usual because I'll have not necessarily a goal of an amount of books I want to read, but just the general video I'm filming is to see how many books I can read in a month. So I thought this would end up being positive for me, and I would end up reading a whole good chunk of books. Keep watching to see how many books I read in the month of January. It's January 2nd. It's 10:21 at night. I've got my retainer in, and I'm a day late and $1 short for this video. Let's read. I have 30 pages of this book left. I have been reading it since like the middle of September. For some odd reason, autobiographies and biographies are always harder for me to finish in a quicker amount of time. That's okay. That's okay. My goal though for this video is not, like I said in the intro, to reach a certain amount of books this month. My goal is more so just to see how many books I can end up reading if I allow myself more time each day to read. We're gonna attempt to read every day, see how far that gets us, how many books we end up reading. And if you don't know a lot about Natalie Wood but you're interested, or if you know some stuff about her and you're more interested in her life and her tragic and mysterious death, I really suggest this book. It's like the first time I'm ever hearing of a psychological autopsy. I just finished this book. It's like 10:15, January 3rd. We have 4 books on my TBR list that are on my shelf up here. We have The Overstory by Richard Powers. This was a gift to me. Behind a Mask by Louisa May Alcott. This is a book my bestie is letting me borrow. We have The Storyteller's Death and Every Summer After, 2 books I bought like back in September or October when I went hiking up in New Hampshire with some friends, and I got it from like a local bookstore. In a week and 3 days I am going to Florida, so I kind of want to bring Every Summer After to that for some summer vibes because it'll be much warmer in Florida. I am tempted to also save The Storyteller's Death for Florida too in case I finish Every Summer After. So I think I should just pick between The Overstory and Behind a Mask. And I think I'm gonna pick Behind a Mask because it is much smaller. I actually just spent like the last hour reading this book. Just realized after looking through it that there is 4 different stories in this book. I literally thought it was just called Behind a Mask, but that is actually the first story in this book. First one I'm reading is Behind a Mask or A Woman's Power. The second one is Pauline's Passion and Punishment. The third is The Mysterious Key and What It Opened. And the fourth is The Abbot's Ghost. So far, I think I'm halfway through the first one, which is Behind a Mask or A Woman's Power. And it basically focuses on a governess. Overall, not bad. I wasn't getting bored with it, so hey, there we go. And look who's here. Currently 4:01, it's Sunday, January 7th. It's been snowing all day up until about a half hour ago it stopped. I decided for the rest of the evening, except for dinner, to just read. The other night, I actually finished the first one. Overall thoughts on that story, it was alright. It was entertaining enough to keep reading and not feel like I'm forcing myself to read it. The next one I'm reading is Pauline's Passion and Punishment. I look like a hot mess because I just came back from a run, and before I take a shower, I update about the books I've read this month. Saturday, January 13th. Let's sit and chat. Finish this. The second one was Pauline's Passion and Punishment. I liked that one a lot better. For some odd reason, that one reminded me of Death Becomes Her. Just like the whole thing about how women compete with one another for a man or male's attention. And that's what it kind of reminded me of, because one of the main characters, Pauline, the man she's supposed to marry leaves her and says he can't marry her, and it turns out it's because he has decided to marry an heiress instead. She essentially has like a friend that he poses as her husband and they actually get married in order to find her ex-fiance, make him jealous, and make herself look better than his wife. And it ends up working, except in the end, she realizes it was a mistake, and I think she starts to fall in love with the friend who agreed to marry her to make her ex-fiance jealous. And essentially at the end, the ex-fiance ends up pushing the husband off a cliff. And then she realizes she made a big mistake, and that's where the story ends. Next one, or the third story, was The Mysterious Key and What It Opened. I liked that one. More engaging and amusing to read. I really liked the storyline and the mystery behind it. The last one is The Abbot's Ghost. A lot of characters involved. Basically, one of them, they were cousins and they ended up falling in love and marrying each other. Not as engaging as the other two I mentioned prior. So I would say the two middle stories I really liked. And last night I started the first 2 chapters of The Storyteller's Death by Anne Davila Cardinal. Really excited for this one. I picked this one up at a bookstore up in New Hampshire. It was like a small local bookstore that this woman owned, and I picked this book up, and then I forget what the other book is. It was on my TBR list too, and this was back in September. Tomorrow around 5:30 is when my flight takes off for Florida. Very excited. And I'm bringing a few books there, so we're gonna get some Florida content of me reading. Started the first 2 chapters of this. Essentially, it's about this young girl whose father passes away. And there, her life begins to unravel, and she's originally from New Jersey, but part of her family, her mom's side, lives in Puerto Rico. She spends the summer with her great aunt and grandmother. She's 18, her grandmother dies, and her grandmother was a really great storyteller. And once her grandmother dies, she realized that she has a special gift that's been passed down in her family to her. So I have about 302 pages to go. The young girl's mom had to go back to New Jersey, and she had to leave her daughter with the great aunt in Puerto Rico, and she left her for the whole summer, and then she had her fly alone back to New Jersey and picked her up. There was a point during that time in the summer when she was left with her great aunt that she overheard her great aunt talking Spanish on the phone to the mom. She couldn't really make out what was going on, but then she heard her great aunt crying, and I was like, okay, I feel like the dad died. She spent the rest of the summer there, and I was like, okay, don't tell me that the mom like buried the father and didn't even tell her 8-year-old daughter. That is what happened. On the way driving back in Newark, she just got picked up from the airport. She's 8, and she's asking her mom, are we going to the hospital to see dad? She says, no, he's not there anymore. And then she's like, is he home? And she's like, no, he's somewhere else. I'll show you. Brings her to the graveyard where the mound of dirt is lumped up where he was buried. She was gonna fly home at some point, might as well fly her home early. Like, hello. I really like the writing style of this author and the way that they're portraying that through the narrator. Wednesday, January 24th. Finished this book, and I'm already on this book. This book was so good. Followed a young girl into becoming a young woman. Family stories, and how at 18 she ends up becoming a storyteller like them. She starts seeing the visions that some of the people in her family have seen. She starts seeing visions, her great-grandfather's death, and mysteries start unraveling after that. She starts seeing more visions and seeing that same vision over and over again, but then she sees more point of views of it, and then she sees more characters in it, and she finds out a lot about her great aunt and something that her grandmother did. It very much parallels generational trauma and stopping generational trauma. I am on page 25, chapter 4 of Every Summer After. This is by Carly Fortune. This is a contemporary adult romance. I love it so far. I love the setting of it. It's set in Canada and essentially follows the love story between Persephone or Percy and Sam back in time. The main characters are about 30, and it goes back to when they were first met when they were 13, and then so on until their eventual breakup and what was the demise of that. Basically what brings her back to Barry's Bay and to seeing Sam and his brother Charlie is the fact that their mom just died of cancer, and Charlie, the older brother, calls her to let her know. Exactly a week left until February 1st. I have a week left to see how many books I can finish. Sunday, January 28th, 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I had a late start to the morning, and the only thing I had to do today was a workout, which I finished, and that was it. So I am going to read and just read. I really like this book so far. I really like the dialogue between the two main characters, Sam and Persephone, or Percy, coming back together for his mom's funeral, and they haven't seen each other in like 12 years. And I like how they're warming up to each other again, and the dialogue they're still having, you could tell things have changed, but they still have a really good connection. I really like their personalities and some of the differences between them, but how they really mesh well together. In some way, shape, or form, they're soulmates, whether it's going to end up being romantic again or whether it's just for friendship. Whatever the case is, I feel like they're two perfect examples of soulmates in general. It's Thursday, February 1st, and although I'm pretty sure I started this video on like January 3rd, so I could go for another day or two, I never ended up filming more of my reading on January 31st, my last day. I ended up only reading, I guess if we're gonna go technicalities here, 3 books in the month of January. I read 2 whole books. I read half a book, which I'm still reading now, Every Summer After. And then the first book I finished in the month of January was a book I had been reading since September, and it was the Natalie Wood biography by Susan Feinstadt. Basically had less than a fourth of the book left, so if you want to add that to half of this to the other 2 full books I read, we'll call it 3 books I ended up reading. Starting this video, I didn't have an exact goal. I wasn't pressuring myself to read like 10 books, but when I started this in the month of January, at the beginning of January, I thought I'd end up getting like 7 books in, maybe 8. And there was points towards the middle of this month, creeping into the last 2 weeks, where I was like, this is a really low amount that I'm reading this month. And then I started being like, well, what's the point of this video? This is stupid. And the point of my whole channel is it's a hobby, and I like editing videos, and again, it's a hobby. Seeing how many books I can read in a month and filming it as proof did remind me to read more, and I love reading. It pushed me to make more time to read, and that is something positive that I got out of this video. I didn't make an exact number I had to reach, and just in general, like, I always see videos of people doing their monthly, weekly even, or yearly reading recap, and for some people I can think of who do like their weekly reading recap, they get through like 5 books, and I know these people work full time, and I'm like, whoa, and that's awesome for them. But I'm also wondering, you know, because they have these social media accounts pertained to reading, are they getting through that many books to hit a certain number for the video aspect, for the views? Honestly, I see those videos and I wonder how fast they're reading just and not even absorbing. So yeah, that's my thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe down below. Bye.